Yes. Is this better?
I think so.
Yes.
Well,
It has that less
back the other
choppy.
way.
Marco's
Hmm?
lost all credibility in Wi-Fi related questions.
Yeah, you can't get it.
What is that?
Uh, Marco's lost all credibility in Wi-Fi related questions now.
Oh, Marco. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's start then. We want to give
Okay,
it
I'll go.
another
I'll go ahead and
minute.
mute all then. Hold on.
Give it another minute or two, eh?
Okay.
What are you doing? Hippopopo, what you doing?
I am stealing this water. Oh, you got your other water. I need water. Hey. I got that mechanical horse from that movie, Urban Cowboy.
Cowboys.
I think you meant mechanical.
All right, you ready?
Okay, I'll mute all and I'll unmute you. It takes a while. Are you? Is that
Unmute
no,
you.
there we go.
Well, hello, everybody. Yes, Sonny, James, Frank, Judith. Judith, have you moved from that position in the last week? No, you're just still sitting here. Let's see, we got John Hopper, John Hopper, John Camera. We got Norman again. He's sort of like the medieval monk. We got Melanie, keep it simple. Daz, Kate. Kate, I can't see. You got something covering, yeah, your head there. Howard, Oklahoma. Ricardo. Mike is in the reclining position. It's good. We have Sarah, Dennis, Gary, Rob, Sean, SM, Arash over there. Sharon in her, yeah, she's very comfortable. Art in New Mexico, scratching some mosquito bites. It's okay. Z. Hi, we have Anthony. Anthony, how are you? James, iPhone. Yariv, thanks for the donation, Yariv. Raj, we got Ben Clark. He's actually sitting up, has a glass, has a coffee, something. Pamela Jones, Donna Howe, Patrick. Nice to see you, Patrick. Dimitri, there he is. He's in his own little Star Trek room, sitting there ready to take off. Hyperdrive. We have Ramona there. We got Donna. She's moved from the couch to a chair. Dana is in a chair. I don't know. I see Chris. I see Richard and Etta, but I don't see Etta, just Richard. Jeff Penfield, comfortable as usual. Caleb. We got Anthony. Anthony, you're looking not like an Anthony. Want my password, honey? Just came up.
Can you share?
Yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, so for anyone who's new here, this this meeting starts out as being framed like these squares, framed around an idea called non-duality. And the funny thing with non-duality, basically it has nothing to do with the name other than stating the name, non-duality. It's more about duality and a recognition of what we're not. This is my take on it, you know. A recognition of what we're not, and by seeing what we're not, we'll get a sense of what non-duality is. But in this place of binary thought and duality, non-duality is just negating the idea of duality. So from that view, it seems like it's emphasizing what we're taking to be true more than what's true. I can't keep doing this with this
No, but
password.
it doesn't. I'm not doing it.
Oh.
It's doing it by itself. Just
I saw it losing it again. All right. So the idea of non-duality is just a negation of what seems to be so, and then there'll be a finding out about what's so. And I find that to be very important because I didn't know when I rode into the topic of non-duality, in a way I was facing backwards on the horse I came in with, yeah? And how I saw everything from that sort of mistake was really obscuring everything in my way. So it was just a correction and recognizing I'm not that which is looking backwards, and then the horse was put in front of the cart and more gets revealed. It's just the way it goes. Now, if you have a crazy action figure and it's very erratic, or you have blood pressure, or you can't see, you feel too scattered, and you're believing the thought system when it tells you you're not in the moment, or you're too screwed up, you're disconnected, you've moved far, far away from the truth. If that's taken to be true, then non-duality may not be the solution at the moment, or may not be what you're looking for. You may be looking to try to improve the action figure, try to calm the mind, try to get the emotions sort of more balanced, maybe have some principles in one's life so that you can stay on the straight and narrow. And when all that stuff occurs, then maybe, just maybe, there'll be a possibility that the mind will be open to some new ideas. I don't know. I don't think one is really based on the other. And I feel most spiritual practices are really for the body and the brain. And they're good for that. Yeah, meditating, when I had an energetic event, it shot my blood pressure up super high. And it was helpful to sit and meditate to calm the body down, because the body was sort of in a manufactured apocalyptic feeling. And so the body need to be chilled out and the brain need to be chilled out. And meditation was really helpful, and stretching and doing all this and doing that. But when I used to see myself being willing to sit 13 hours to meditate, I had there must have been a belief that I thought I was going somewhere, because to calm the body down doesn't take 13 hours of meditation. Maybe 10 deep breaths, yeah, or a little, and then bring it down. It doesn't need 13 hours. So most of my spiritual pursuits were based on I, as the body action figure paradigm, was going to either get to be a much super action figure, super paradigm, or actually escape the action figure as the action figure. Yeah. And or that the action figure, to be what it already is, it would have to go through a lot of purification and have a lot of requirements, like no thought, or my mind being like on a pole, constantly following the breath, and constantly the whole entrance into heaven or through the gateless gate was having to sort of pay a lot of tolls to get through a lot of gates to arrive at the gateless gate. Yeah. And so there was something off there in my experience. And then I came, after doing a lot of activity to make Paul better, and to really just trying to get out of Paul as Paul, I was introduced to this idea. And first, I moved towards this idea, or I entertained this idea the same way I entertained every other idea. But in a very short period of time, I saw, just by the novelty of the invitation, I saw the system or the mechanism or the format, how I approached everything was what was really being put under question. It wasn't that I didn't have the right target or the right goal or the right means to arrive there, and then a huge way of life to stay there. It was about the whole here and there. It was about the idea that maybe this urge and drive to go to LA is mistaken. Maybe you are in LA. Yeah. And so, all right, then I heard that novelty. But then that which was believing it was in LA tried to believe it was in Omaha. Yeah. Or was whatever. No, that which was not believing it was AA kept thinking it was getting your LA as Omaha, which made it another map to getting to LA. But the message is you are what you're looking for. And the looking for it is blinding you to it, really. Just basically that's the message. And every movement, every activity being used to produce stillness is just another form of activity. So you get sort of stuck in these thumb puzzles, and after a few years of immaturity where you're trying to use the idea of not being Paul as an excuse for Paul, as a way of giving Paul permission to do tons of shit to people. And then when they say, hey, Paul, why the hell did you do that? Oh, there's no Paul that did that. Yeah. That was outgrown. And then I really saw the dilemma, which it wasn't getting non-duality, was I was trying to get non-duality as duality. Yeah. And so I might as well just start looking at duality and see if I'm that. Am I that which my brain and the interpretation and the narration in my head is assuming? Is that which is perceiving, can that which is perceiving can be perceived? Can it? Because obviously my whole story in my head is that's the truth. It's that the object of Paul is what's perceiving as Paul. Yeah, I heard a great master, Huang Po. I didn't hear him, he was dead, but I heard the echo in a book. And he made it so clear that whatever can be perceived cannot be that which is perceiving. So he undermined the whole basis of the narrative I've been listening to since I've been 6 years old or something. Yeah, it was incredible. So the whole premise is there is an assumed me that's definitely me, and then from that point of view, there's a critique of that, there's a recognition of that, there's measuring it up and seeing where it is, and then it just provokes a lot of energy to sort of get out of that or to make that better. But whatever, there's subtle ways of just denying what you are by being more of what you are. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. So, I ran into the message. The head tried to use it for a few years. It didn't go anywhere. The idea of knowing it intellectually didn't go anywhere. Those ideas, old ideas that I'm going to have it one day or I'm going to be there to get it, didn't go anywhere. That I'm going to subtly try not to do as another form of doing. And all this, it just didn't work. And then there was an exhaustion, and it was just clear. The futility of using what we're not to arrive at or get or to understand or to experience what we are. It's just the whole extended stubbornness of the wave, not able to see it's not the wave, therefore finding out that it's the ocean, just keeps trying to know the ocean more, tries to have more experience of ocean, tries to study the ocean, tries to have a peak experience about being the ocean just for a second or two, constantly framed as a wave. When the whole point is see that you're not the wave and you'll find out you're the ocean. Yeah? How long is going to take? If the wave was all imaginary, how long will it take to find out you're the ocean? Not long. Yeah, it's going to be instantaneous in a sense. Now, does that establish in time? Who knows? But at least you get a whack, and that whack isn't coming from like a long drawn out process to produce a whack. It's a whack before all the producing of whacks. You just recognize something, and hopefully it gets stabilized, and now at least certain things become clear. Yeah, which is, I can seem to be asleep to being awake, or I can seem to be awake to being awake, but I can't change the fact that I'm awake. Yeah, that's a fact. Now, I can act as if it isn't a fact, just like I did seemingly with addiction. I was an addict at a certain age, but I acted like I wasn't. I denied that I was, but the fact was, it was a fact. And until I got to a point of accepting that, nothing was going to go better. So, and suddenly then there's the recognition, hey, I'm what I'm looking for. What's going to happen? There's going to be a decrease in looking for it, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's how can the looking for it sustain itself when the whole myth of what's driving it has been undercut? Yeah. So now I'm not wasting any time looking for what can't be found. I'm not trying to get into a moment that I can't be out of, and I'm not trying to get out of what I can't be in, which is a self. There's selfing going on, but the selfing never culminates to being anything. It's we that take it to be so. We, us. Yeah, just like if you see the thoughts and everything, they're not playing to the outside public, they're playing this way. There's an audience in there that the mental state is definitely there is one, and is trying to convince all day. The problem with us is we don't know. Yeah, we don't know the audience because we're trying to know the audience. We're being it. We are beyond knowing, we're being. Yeah? So the mental state is trying to convince us false evidence as facts, basically. And the biggest false evidence is the I am implying there's a Paul. Yeah? The I am is on its own. The idea that Paul, yeah, is all mental, yeah? But now the mental uses the I amness to support I am Paul, yeah? So we'll just hold these talks. Hopefully they're helpful, and hopefully they're not helpful in some ways, yeah? Remember, we're not talking to anybody here, and it's definitely not coming from Paul. Paul was just looking at a freaking cactus a second ago. You know, Paul didn't prepare since 6 a.m. to be ready for this to happen. There's no getting ready for it to happen. It's always happening. Yeah. So the point is the message isn't going to Sunny. It's not going to Natalie. It's not going to Judith. It's not going to David. Hopefully, it's thrown over the head of Judith and over the head of David and over the head of Natalie, and then it hits its target, which is what we are, yeah? Because I've realized the futility of constantly talking to Natalie about what she is. I much rather talk to what you are about Natalie, tell you the truth. It just works better, yeah, yeah. Because what you are, when it sees it's not Natalie, the Natalie will be the greatest recipient of that result, because the Natalie will find herself over time traveling lighter, yeah, with not tons of tool belts and fucking skillful means and everything like that, but just traveling lighter in and of the basic case, the basic condition, yeah. What more do you want, really? I don't want a solution that in time becomes heavier than the problem it's meant to diminish. I want a solution that tells me there is no problem, basically. Yeah? And then based on that there is no problem, far out. Yeah? And then when something really seems to be a problem, I have ways and means to navigate myself around that, but everything isn't seeming to be a problem anymore. Yeah? the peace that used to be a rare occurrence is now the norm, and then let's say the dramatic upswing of agitation is like a phenomenon. That's the peak experience now. Yeah. The basis, the condition is not of experience, it's before experience. And that has a sense of ease and comfort. That's the new baseline, not irritable, restless, and discontent, because then irritable, restlessness, and discontent demands a search to get relief. And the relief in this case reinforces the problem, because we're in an act of being identified as that which we want to get out of. So when we want to get out of it, we want to get out of it as it. That's the dilemma. It doesn't work. So searching for knowledge, just search for the knowledge of self. Yeah? Just borrow a pair of glasses and watch about 10 minutes of you with from a new position, from a new reference point. And in those minutes, the things that you just took to be something will be seen as something else. They will. Yeah? That's the beauty of the invitation. The beauty of the invitation is hoping for you and I in a couple of minutes to have a new way of seeing and a new way of hearing, so something freaking gets through. Yeah? And that something that gets through will stabilize and it will get established. And you will have a way of life that is promoted by you traveling lighter. Not a way of life that is promoted by you being in anxiety all freaking day. Yeah. I love this message because it put a stop to seeking tons of messages. Yeah, I love this message. I love what it's turned out in this place of time for me to be, which is the last answer. Yeah, it put the whole, you come to the end of this book, there's no add-ons. There's another chapter doesn't come 3 weeks later, or 5 years later it gets revised and they put in 20 new different fucking things to do. No, it's bammo. Yeah, it closes, and basically that's that. Yeah, you've seen, hey, what's been happening, Paul, is the Buddha has been using itself to find itself. That whole event has been called Paul. Yeah, so the Buddha, aka Paul, has been using itself through the identification as Paul to look for the Buddha. Mind, aka Paul, has been using itself to look for mind. Light, aka Paul, has been using itself to look for light. And this great master says, you can do this for eons and nothing's going to happen. Yeah? So where is the correction weight on? It's not on light, mind, and Buddha. That's a given. It's on this movement, this activity, this mental activity of Pauling, of sunnying, of Daviding. Yeah. So Daviding is using Buddha to look for the Buddha. Now Daviding, being self-centered, has blamed Daviding for all the failure, but the failure was attempting to, Zen bitch slap Daviding to see it's not Daviding. That's why it all failed. It's not like the universe has anything against you. You're going down the wrong road. So you think they're obstructions, but they're trying to detour you so you can go back. Instead of barging ahead with David, you stop and say, hey, let's look at David. Yeah? Maybe I'm not David, and then what happens? You find out you're Buddha, yeah? And then it makes absolutely no sense to look for Buddha if you're Buddha. And then you realize the using Buddha to look for Buddha was the way of hiding the Buddha, yeah? Who would have thunk? Who would have known? Well, now you do. Yeah. I didn't know, and then there was a moment I knew. And that moment crossed, it was like a flare going back on my life in time. It was like a flare that lit up the whole theme since I've been 6 years old. That it was Paul using Paul to get out of Paul. Or, yes, the Buddha using itself to get into the Buddha. You could see it both ways, yeah? The whole thing, it took like no time at all. It showed me the whole theme of my life since I've been 6 years old to that point, yeah? It was indisputable, not able to be argued. What happens? Just let it roll over you and see what occurs, yeah? And maybe you'll be called to great heights as an action figure, and maybe you won't, yeah? Maybe you'll become a mini saint, or maybe you won't. Who knows? You're going to find out, yeah? But one thing will be very, very clear, yeah? You won't be believing that the object is what's perceiving. You won't be believing that you really can be out of a moment, so that it's really important that you work really hard to get into a moment. You will not even, that will seem so freaking absurd, yeah? You'll realize, wow, this whole magic trip is based on time. You'll see it from timelessness. You'll see the whole thing. It's like the curtain isn't fabric, it's time, yeah? The obscuring agent isn't a thing, it's time. Yeah. It's like speeding up your vision when you need to really see, and then slowing down the vision when all you see is you. Yeah? It's like that. It's just like it. And so now you get a sense of what's been going on. And like we use that statement in the big book, it says, without knowing it as the condition, tons of shit happens. Well, now you change that condition. You could have said, without seeing it, all this shit occurs. Well, now you're seeing it, yeah? See what happens. The basic point, the basic Petri dish has been removed. See what fucking shit grows now, yeah? It's sort of like the whole thing of trying to have tons of skillful means how to run the moths away from wherever you're sitting outside. All you need to do is move the light bulb. Take the light bulb, the moths will disperse. Yeah? We're missing the whole freaking point. What is the sense of being the one who has all the problems? That's the problem. Yeah? It's not that you've had a massive amount of problems. You've had only one, which is the one who had all the problems. Yeah. You want relief from all of that? There's relief from this. Yeah? This will beget relief from that. If this stays the same, that's going to stay the same. And it's not going to be minor additions that are going to make it. Yeah, it's going to keep going back to the same old habit. Yeah, maybe you'll get good a couple of weeks or a day or two in a controlled situation and you'll feel great. But as soon as you're left out in the wild, it'll revert back. Yeah, because this needs to be looked at. Not all the problems. Who has the problems? Yeah, who is it that has them? You don't give a shit if other people have problems. So it isn't problems that produces interest and attention. It's they're yours. Yeah? Where does the your come from? An ownership of that's not yours. Basically, it's a manufactured ownership, yeah, with all of the disadvantages, yeah? And then there's no out of the contract. You're not going to have no thought as a thinker. No fucking way. The only thing that's wishing for no thought is the idea of the thinker. That's really it. The thinker wants the opposite of all the actions that make it up. It doesn't work. Yeah? You're not going to get out of the doer through doing. You can't. The doing is being used to reinforce the doer, whatever that doing is. This is the fundamental conundrum they're talking about. They're trying to get us to that point, and then they provide the answer, which is it's an open gate, it's an open secret, a gateless gate. Yeah, all the demand, that way of looking at it, demands. There's none of that demand this way of looking at it. Really. All of the demands that self-centeredness demands for any real change isn't applicable to that. Yeah? This says you'll have to go to great lengths. This says, hey, there may not be any lengths. It doesn't matter, like they say in Zen, like putting lipstick on a pig, or painting legs on a snake. It's still a fucking snake and a pig. The system is a failed system. The system of two isn't working for us. And the system of two isn't going to go on a spiritual diet and then become the system of one. It isn't. It's a way of seeing. It's a way of interpreting. It's a way of holding everything, comparing. Yes, this and that. You can't get out of it as it. And if you are the collected sum of all the selfing's parts, yeah, how is that sum, which is a product of all the selfing? In other words, a magical noun, yeah, trying to get out of the verbs that make it. There's no noun. It's the addiction to the verbing that caused you to feel like a noun. And is the noun going to break that addiction? It's the product of the addiction. Perhaps there's a better way. In this case, no way. Yeah. And then from there, whatever way appears to seem to appear, it'll be fucking organic. Yes? There'll be dance steps that you never saw before. Where you're supposed to make effort, you won't. Yeah? Where you're thinking you're going to be called to arms, you'll be disarmed. Yeah? You'll have no idea of what's going on. Like in Zen, they would say the highest mind is I don't know. Don't know. Exactly. That puts you in a position of finding out. You know, when I first this started to happen, sharing, my understanding of this idea of self was like a foreign wall, yeah? Now, over time, I've seen that there is no wall whatsoever. It's all separate little threads, yeah? And then there's a way of seeing it that it looks like a solid fabric, yeah? But if you can point out all the gaps between the threads, you'll see the accumulation of you is an activity. There is no Paul as a long-lasting, independent, separate thing. That's a mirage. That's a projection. Yeah? What we are is what we are. Yeah? What's going on is verbing. The mental state has decided the verbing implies there's got to be a noun somewhere. And suddenly, what's happening is seen as a past event and worried as a future event. Yeah? All of this shit was added on. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Eh?
Okay, and Sean's got a hand up, but I wanted to introduce Nick's new or an updated terminology for some of your phrasing. Instead of you pitching this over the mind or over our what we think we are as minds. This is in context when you were saying that the message is not to John or Eve or Melanie, and so the preoccupation with our own but that might get asked to just see all the different names as buts. So Nick thought of instead of pitching the message over what we think we are as mind, it's pitching it over the butts, over its butts.
Well, I like to just go. I like to go here and say hello to Sonny Butt and James Butt,
Yeah,
Judith
exactly.
Butt. Maybe it actually would be more appropriate. Butt Judith, Butt James, Butt Frank, Butt David, Butt Mike and Nick, known to me as Beavis and Butthead, Butt Sylvester, Butt Paul, Butt Natalie. Yeah.
So there we go. So we're on to Butt Sean. Go
Butt
ahead,
Shot,
Sean.
Butt Shot. Yeah. Butt Harper, Butt John, Butt Howard.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, apologies if you've been asked this question before, but I'm fairly new to your teaching. But you know when you say that it makes no sense to make any effort because it reinforces the seeker. Does that
Well, not
mean
necessarily. Not necessarily, but it definitely will if there's no seeing of that. Yeah.
So does that mean that that you shouldn't practice self-inquiry at all, or that I have as much of a chance as reaching self-realization as anyone else in the street, if you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you already are realized. You're already realized. So you've been successful already.
Yeah.
There's a denial of that fact as if it's going to happen later, but it's not true. And the idea, what was the one before that?
Well, I just said, do you think it is there no point in making
Oh,
any
the
effort?
self-inquiry. So yes, the self-inquiry, you're basically using what you're not to ask what you're not who it is. Yes?
Yeah. See, there's value in asking that question.
There's value in it, yeah, but not to what you're not.
Okay.
That's the good news. That's why what you're not gets bored quickly. But you're doing what you're not. So who am I? That question is coming or being stated from the point of what you're not. And it's asking the what you're not that's taking itself to be the hearer of that. So one point, it's the one who's asking, and the other point is the one who's receiving. They're both selfing, yeah? And there's hopefully a negation of those two, which is, in fact is the case, because there aren't two. So basically, you hit some point, and that point never gets to the idea of asking, who am I? It just rests, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, everything has value here. I'm not saying nothing has value. I'm saying the value in stuff is to see what's claiming it, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there seems to be a lot of teachers that kind of claim that there's no point in making any effort, and you should just, it will either happen or it won't, which just to me just has never really made any sense.
Well, the thing is, if you're looking at it from what you are, yeah, that's true. But very few people ever are looking for it from what they are. They're looking from what they're not. So when you say that to what you're not, it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is what drove me to do this stuff. I went to satsangs, and people would present that, and to what was hearing it, it made no fucking sense. Yeah. And no one was pointing out to me that which was presented as hearing it is the dilemma. Yeah. No one was pointing out while hearing about what I am, I was hearing it from what I'm not. It wasn't, maybe they were, I missed it, yeah? And so I felt this was rather important point because your life is going to be based on a mistaken identity, so to speak. Yeah. So it's, and so when this was becoming obvious to me, I would read Ramana's Maharshi stuff, and I would see that this idea was mentioned a lot in all the people who wrote stuff about his teaching, and it was prefaced as the greatest mystery or the problem. So they were putting a huge amount of emphasis on this, and I figured, shit, yeah, you know. So the idea of hearing about what I am as what I'm not doesn't go well. It doesn't, yeah? Because what I am is built on doing. I mean, what I'm not is completely built on doing itself into conditions, yeah? So when it hears, oh, there's nothing you can do and there's no need to do anything, hitting the program of the action figure, it just fucking doesn't work, yeah? Because now they try to do a subtle doing, yeah, called non-doing. But the only vehicle what you're not knows to use, because it already thinks it's somewhere, that's its whole premise. So everything else that it hears is about an arrival, yeah? Really, it is, because it's already premised that it's Paul, yeah? And it's hearing everything in that frame. So when it hears about what it is, which is, of course, what you are doesn't need anything to do about being what it is, and any effort would be a denial of the fact of what it is, yeah? But it's not heard from there. It's heard from the action figure. This is the point. This is the whole point of all the talks. All that was needed for a lion to get that it's a lion is to hear it's a lion. But there's something that happens that stops that. It makes it very, very confusing and very, very unstable, because you may get a hit in a certain condition and circumstance. Yeah, I am the lion, but you change circumstances and it reverts back to the sheep identification. Yeah? That's what needs to be talked about, in my view. Yeah? That to me here is more fundamentally important than what you are. It is. Yeah? Because hearing about what you are isn't getting through to what you are, is it?
No. But I think
because something else is catching it. So that's why we're talking about, is that something else. That there's a mental activity and its main modus operandi is claiming, and it uses what it's claimed. So let's say there's consciousness and then there's action. So there's a consciousness of actions, and the mental state arises in that field of consciousness and claims the action to imply the actor. That's it. Yeah? And very quickly, you're not consciousness aware of doing, you're the doer of it. Yeah? This changes the whole, it's like the door's there, but the mail slot's been moved. Unbelievably. And now all the mail is getting diverted to that slot. And of course, that slot is going to make whatever it receives fit its system, its slot, yeah? So without pointing that out, that activity of selfing, and how most of us are starting from its production. We're actually starting as the thing it's suggesting we are. It's already seemingly worked because we're starting there, yeah? And so when we hear about what we are, and what we are doesn't need to do anything about what we are. Exactly. Of course, yeah? Any effort would be something other than that, of course. But heard as what you're not doesn't make fucking sense, yeah? You see?
But aren't you always speaking to what you're not until you realize that what you are? So like you can self-inquire. You're always self-inquiring, to put it that way, up until you're not, if you know what I mean. So like,
yeah, but you're not always, because what you're not is not you. And there'll be moments, huge stretches sometimes in time, where you'll be resting in what you are. And then there'll be no need for a questioning or anything else. Yeah? That's what Ramana talked about. He said, yeah, you use self-inquiry, but there's a point where it stops when you've hit the pay dirt, so to speak. There's been a shift of attention off of what you're not to what you are. Yeah, you've touched home base, so to speak. Instead of running into the dugout, you just sit on home base. Yeah, and you
And do you
watch
think
the
you'll
game
know when?
from there.
And do you think you know when this happens? It's not. It's not like an intellectual thing. You're like, oh, it's
No,
obvious. that
you
it's
have
happening.
a sense. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's not an intellectual thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm not there
How many
yet.
times do you have to read? You're in LA while being in LA. It's going to dawn on you you're in LA sooner or later. It's like the old idea, if you keep going to a barber shop, you're going to get a haircut. You know what I mean? It's the same premise in a way.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah. So, I'm hoping, that's the hope I have for all these Zooms. Just point out the warnings, and it's almost as if you'll back in backwards, yeah? Where you're thinking you're driving to the destination, you'll basically hit it with your rear bumper and go, what? And
Yeah,
hopefully there'll be a stopping and you turn off the engine, because that's the appropriate response. Now you're sitting there, yeah, and you're not going, who's sitting there? It's just sitting, yeah.
Sure.
The consciousness is aware of an event, and you've recognized that activity you weren't seeing anymore. You recognize the mental state arises, claims it to imply a Paul. It's mechanical, yeah? But it can't make a Paul. It can only insinuate a Paul, or historically insinuate a Paul, futuristically insinuate a Paul, but there's no Paul. It's just, yeah?
Yeah.
That's why, let's say, you go to a house and you knock on the door 500 times. You would probably, maybe at the 50th time, come to a conclusion there's nobody home. You know what I mean? Well, who am I is sort of like that. Who am I? Sooner or later, after it says me and whatever, there's a pause. There you are. That's what you are. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes no sense
And
to
it
keep
wasn't like it came, it was always there at all times, yeah? No, with no requirement necessary. Yeah. At that point, the appropriate response is you just rest there. I mean, shit. I mean,
Yeah.
you put the ball down and the fans, there's a big hurrah. You scored.
You made it.
You don't pick the ball and run the other way, and start the same thing dualistically over and over again.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. That's the whole point here. I'm not saying anything has ever come to pass. I'm saying there's a whole lot of things that seem as real can be based on us not knowing it. So what would happen, instead of changing everything that comes after without knowing it, maybe change that, see what happens. Maybe if you have the eyes to see, which we do, you'll see it. And you'll see it as other than you. And you'll see there was never a you to begin with. And maybe that will let the you, the seeming you, travel lighter. Yeah, that's how it's happened with me. Yeah.
Do you think it's helpful?
I'm not giving you a cryptic equation. This is a reverse engineering of what's happened with me, what's happening with me. There's just been a reverse engineering of it. Yeah. The relief occurred, and then there was a reverse engineering of why where's the point? Wasn't the relief available? Yeah. And like the old story with the movie theater, and some person with a big head's blocking your view, and you're yelling and screaming, and then you realize it's your head. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point of this. I always say that's the whole point because there's thousands of points about that's the whole point. There is no whole point. There's thousands of whole points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be clear. I know this is you're new here. Be clear. We're not talking to you about what you are. We're talking to what you are about you. Yeah. That's the direction of the message.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not into describing the indescribable. I'm into describing the describable so that the indescribable realizes it can't be described. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How? By
Okay.
seeing descriptions.
Yeah.
And not that, not that, not that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, my friend. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, man. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. Dana is up next. I've unmuted her. They have to unmute themselves too.
Okay. Hi, Paul. I wanted to say that let's see, if it was probably a few weeks ago, and I think I don't know what I was talking about, but at some point I said, well, I'm really looking forward to that. It was about like a traveling lighter kind of thing. And your response was, well, don't look forward to it if it's something that's available right now. And I guess I just want to say that really was helpful because in the last few weeks, I've just been, letting that sit and considering, oh, whatever it is I'm looking for is available right now. Like it's here. And it has been a different experience. And I'm,
You
going
sound
through.
surprised.
Yeah, well, the action figure is surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I'm really, I guess I'm just, I'd never really had that put that way before. I've spent a lot, I mean, probably no different than anyone else, but spent a lot of my life looking forward to things and putting a lot of value on looking forward to things and becoming something. And I probably because I got a lot of satisfaction out of that for a long time. And it's, it kind of always felt good to achieve something that I had wanted to achieve. And, but what really drew me to this message was that isn't the experience with spirituality as a thing like and so I just all the talk about oh, I have to sit here 13 hours or whatever, it made me just immediately laugh, and it resonated with me because I dread all of that as much as I thought I might need it, or or
Yeah.
suspected I might need it. So it's great to sort of all of a sudden go, great, not happening. I'm not doing it. but I mean,
There's the but
I
again.
like, what
The
was that?
but. The but.
No but. I'm just saying, as an action figure, I enjoy the action. I really do enjoy it. So I don't find it a drag on me, and I even enjoy the way the mind goes. And it's fine to me if it's not real and it's not what I am, then
Yeah.
that's fine, because like you said, I'm not going to talk this action figure out of that idea. So let it run, let it run, let it enjoy the day.
Well, it's going to run anyway. It does.
Of course it's going to run, but I mean, I try, but it also tries to get in its own way. Like I'm trying to trip myself and get, so that's been a long experience. But I don't know. The last few weeks have been really enjoyable. And I just think that a lot of this is sinking in, and it's in a way that just does seem to happen naturally. Without trying to actually search for special feelings.
Yeah.
I think the search for special feelings gets in the way of experiencing what is really right here in the present moment. And, the mild disappointment that it isn't as euphoric as I might always like it to be, that seems to be okay. So I don't know. I'm enjoying this. It's fun to be on, and
Great. Yeah, well, we're enjoying your participation, honey.
thank you.
Yeah. We have two hands up.
Yes, Dana's done, okay, and then James, and then Jay LaRue is asking by chat too. So, James, I've unmuted you. And unmute yourself if you need to.
All right, I'll go quick while I can. I just wanted to say thank you very much. Out of context came that stop experiencing yourself as the object. And I got a free vacation out of it. It was like immediate. And I love it when something simple like that just
Yes.
puts James back as a cloud and gets me back in the sky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
That's more, that will occur more and more. Yeah. Yeah. You know, you could say the sky is the not of time and the cloud is of time. Yeah. So when your head comes out of the cloud and you're in that sky, you can see the cloud. Yeah. Yeah. That's always happening as a basis at all times. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. It's good to see you, James. Good to see your lovely granddaughter. Yeah. Yeah. She's the perfect epitome of,
Fear now.
yes, of the message, really. You have to look at Ramana Maharshi. What an incredible success. He got to wear diapers his whole life. Amazing, eh? Yeah. All right. So next, whatever question.
Are you going to start wearing diapers?
I may be now. You don't know what I'm wearing.
Yeah. And so Jay, can you unmute yourself, Jay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, hi.
Who's this, Jay?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah. So I was thinking about something. Okay, say hypothetically speaking, say there's a guy.
I don't like hypotheticals.
Okay, so
No, but go ahead. Yeah.
okay, so say there's a guy, right? And so one night he goes from sort of the thought-based awareness and notices the already awake, already present, no requirement necessary, open awareness. And he sees this as a major shift. And let's say maybe he sits in a park bench for a couple of years in total bliss, goes on to write books and things like that, and make a lot of money. Isn't that, to me, it seems like that would be a psychological story that this person's telling themselves about an experience, and he would be giving it all of the meaning that it has, and he's telling himself this story about this. He's not a lot of these Advaita teachers aren't talking about dog shit awareness or ordinary awareness and seeing that, oh wow, it's already been this way. They're describing it as more like something completely off the wall. And it seems like, and it's described as something that they have achieved and attained. And then if you do this and this and this, come spend 10 grand at my retreat and all the rest, then you will be in this, state where nothing can touch you. You'll be like a walking razor blade, but it seems that if it was just an experience, a phenomenon in consciousness, then it was transient and ephemeral as anything else. And they're giving it all this, they're dressing it up with all this extra meaning when that's not necessary, but they believe it because they're constantly telling themselves this looping sort of psychological story about, hey, I don't have any thoughts right now. But yet they're advertising it like it's so great. I was just wondering, does that sound like something that makes sense to you?
Jay, in a way, see you having a psychological story, and you have there's gonna be that no matter what, yeah. But it's what's before it, yeah. Is the hand really taking itself to be the glove? Because the glove's puppet show is gonna go on, yeah.
Right.
Your hand is in some form the energy of that. But there's a difference between, let's say, like hearing and listening, and a difference between a glove in a hand and then the hand taking itself to be the glove. Yeah? So there can, it can look one way from where we see it, but it may not be looking at it from where they are, whatever. I don't know. But so just to say that what we're sharing about isn't a guarantee, yeah, of the claiming and everything. Yeah, it's just there's a whole lot of, without knowing, people who are entering this kind of topic, that there's a system that's in place that's constantly presenting itself as us. Yeah, just to put it that way. And if you believe there's certain circles where that isn't happening, you're gonna have a rude awakening, because it's happening wherever we are. Yeah. Now, does it fulfill its mission, and where you can't see the other colors because of the yellow tint? That's something that's up to what's before, really. Yeah. Yeah. But there's gonna be a story, no matter what. Yeah. Either you're wearing it loosely, or you're wearing it almost as a promotion. But that's all coming from what's before. So I don't know where they are or whatnot. All I found for me was the more important message wasn't about the message, really. It was about that which may be taking to be the hearer of the message, unbeknownst to what really wants to get the message. You know what I mean? I just saw it in my own life. I saw it, and I saw that a lot of practices never brought that into clarity. It didn't. I didn't meditate myself into that vision. I didn't. I heard it. I heard it from somewhere, and it landed, and it was like the shoe fit. And then it surveyed. It's sort of like, writing a program, and then telling the program to go over through all your files and look for just one thing, the theme, yeah, and then highlight it. That's what would happen. I'd hear these statements, and then there would be like a mind gazing over the appearance of Paul in time, and it would see the whole theme. And then there was all the particulars, but underneath all the same theme, self trying to get out of self, basically, yeah? Or self trying to get into another self, yeah? But somehow the nexus of all movement was this agitation of identification. And so it seemed to be pretty damn important, because we're walking into we're walking into the spiritual doctor's office, and we want to get relief for the disease instead of from the disease. You know what I mean? I think it'd be important to have a warning, have some warnings what's going on when we enter all these intensives and shit like that, and we come out of it with that which we wanted to have diminished in the intensive, so to speak. I have a spiritual self that's much more fucking slippery than the crude little fucking addict, break down the door, give me that cocaine self. That was easy to see. That has a resume of court dates and fucking getting run over by cars. The other thing may have a resume of retreats. Yeah, it's a little different. So I just felt moved to share, because I wasn't hearing it at meetings of non-duality. I wasn't. I was hearing all about what I am, but I was hearing it about from what I'm not. Like our earlier guy was talking, and it was very confusing, because all I know is doing from a certain point of view. And you're telling me there's nothing to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to be able to collapse the system as the system and immediately retire there? No. I'm going to try to do myself in, there's nothing to do. That's what's going to happen, right? Because I constantly come from this formatted reference point. I'm not seeing it. So once you can see it, it's going to still make its movements, but you won't sign up for the army, yes? When it's saying, all right, you're getting drafted and you're going to Tibet, you're not going. Yeah. You're a conscientious fucking denier or whatever. You're not into it anymore. The fucking floor was taken out, yeah?
Right on.
And then if there's no trying to move the dominoes, they move themselves. Yeah, and maybe you get the message because now you're higher up and the message is you're fucked or something. And it's hallelujah because it's like, geez, I've been using what I am to look for what I am. Always directed by what I'm not. It's insane. So, yeah. So I don't know about anything else. You know, I hit this ceiling when it came to the talks, and I'm open for new directives, and I haven't gotten a new directive in fucking years. Yes, I'm open. If that which downloads told me, all right, move to the next phase, I would, but there's no next phase. This is the point. Yeah, is to see what I'm not, living as if it's me. Yeah, basically, and without me knowing it, it's going to continue. Yeah, with me knowing it, it's going to continue, but my hand won't be in that glove all the way. Yes, and I'll realize while the glove's moving, it's the hand. Yeah, the horse will be in front of the cart. I'll have a basic understanding of dog shit awareness that I am awake. Yeah, I'm not awake as the glory. My head burst into flames and then regrouped, and I ended up having red hair from then on, or fucking like that. It's just, yeah, I'm awake, and there we are. I'm in Novato, and shit's happening, and I thought being awake would change everything. Well, you've been awake the whole time. How much has it changed? You can't deny you haven't been awake. You are. I mean, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching has been going on with no thought of effort since I was a thing I didn't even know I was, which was the baby. So I'm just, and then, you know, fucking maybe here in this world, you could describe a lot of it by enough, yeah? You'll just reach enough, and then that engine gets turned off, that engine gets turned off, that engine, and then you can really hear the eternal hum of what you are, yeah? Enough. I have enough money. I haven't, no, but keep donating. It's helpful. I have enough food. I have a love in my life. I have love in my life, even if I don't have a love in my life. I have, I'm available and I'm present, not with any heroic effort, but just as a basic matter of factness, yeah? What's not happening is just, it's mostly empty theaters now. I mean, you know, all of the trailers I don't buy a ticket. What's not happening, you know, leave it as what's not happening. And then you're here, and you've never not been here, yeah? And do I want to be more here? No. Do I believe I can be less here? No. Yeah? In other words, my condition isn't affecting the prior condition. Who would have thunk that's the way it is? But it's true. Yeah? The prior condition can bring great influence on the preceding conditions, but they don't affect the prior condition. And they definitely don't make the prior condition the prior condition. It just is. And I mean, seriously, You're brought to certain points in this life, and those points put the appropriate response is a pause. Yeah? That's the beauty of the messages that I've run into in this life. Their main oomph was pausing. They paused the whole engine, the whole system, and it stopped and something continued. Yeah? St. Francis, what's looking is what you're looking for. Stop the fucking engine. Yeah? Like an avalanche of information, you know? Huang Po, whatever can be perceived can't be perceiving. You can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Stop the fucking thing. Unbelievably. Yeah? All these little statements, you know, the description, one of the greatest little descriptions in all of the Course in Miracles for me was a simple statement. The brain interprets to the body. Yeah? So obviously we're living an interpretation here in this life, and I would say the brain is the interpreter or the interpreting factor, and all the information the brain is taking in is being related to or framed as a body. What more do you need to know that the system has failed? If that's its premise. You don't need 800 examples. That does it for me. Yeah? And then he would say, hey, firm in faith in being what you're not, and in an active denial of what you are, you take that what you're not as you. That's it. That's the dilemma. So these things have hit me, and every time I see them or get to say them, the same whack I got the first time. Every time. They are so fucking on the money, and they use such a little to explain a huge amount. It's beautiful. It's perfect economy. It's perfect efficiency. Yeah? You don't need tons and tons, just a little whack, and you'll do the rest. Yeah? Yeah. One slap, and you'll be the reverberation of that. One yell, and you'll be the echo of that. That's what happens. Yeah? Yeah. And that echo from silence will drown out all the fucking yapping going on. It'll drown it out because there'll be no punch in the yapping anymore. Yeah? And that echo doesn't end. When you actually get bit slapped, it's not an event. It triggers like that stone thrown into an eternal pond. It just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And then maybe along the way of the 80, 100,000 ripple, you get to realize, hey, this is the last answer, yes? Yeah, shit like that. So, yeah. Thanks, bro. Yeah.
Anybody else want to raise their hands? All quiet.
Getting off easy today.
Well, we can end, bro, if you like.
Okay. Last call.
Hey, Paul, I was going to say, you better hope the Yankees don't hear this message or they're just going to stay at home plate.
Yeah. They're all sit down.
Yeah, well, they are anyway, it's true.
That's right. Hey, let me say hello to everybody, if I can. There's Dimitri. Dimitri, yes. Beam me up, Dimitri. We got Vladislav. He's in some dark place in Siberia, I think. Oh, he's coming out of the cave. He's the Siberian bear. What happened to your paw over there? Don't tell me. Nice to see you, Vlad.
Dislocated my elbow.
Oh. Let me see Sukyana, Macaulay, nice to see you. Ashley in Dallas. There's a few people from Dallas here, Ashley. Wow. Keith. Come on back, Keith. Earth to Keith. Come on back. Yeah, there you go. James. Chris Gilmore, looking very sorry. You don't mind me saying your last name? It's too late. Came out. Johans, Jim, nice to see you there. Let's see, we got Patrick with a dog with some kind of flotation device around it. All right. Nick, somewhere, he's left. Some people have left the body already. Nick left the body about a half an hour ago. John, Luca, nice to see you. Donna, as always. I need a haircut, Donna. I don't know how we're going to do it. Yeah. Barbara, and there he is, my main man. Rob, Alan, nice to see you. I think I missed you the other day, Alan. I'm happy to see you again. Geraldine, looking very comfortable. Sonny's outside smoking a cigar. It burns for 45 minutes, Sonny, so there you go. We got Art from New Mexico. He's the man who brought me to Dallas once. Wow. That takes a lot to get me to Dallas, really. Ramona. I met a lot of Ramonas growing up in New York. Yeah. What's this, Malcolm? Nice to see you, Malcolm, there. Sheila, you're up today. It's good. At least one day a week. It's good. Gary, stay in the corner. Stay in that corner, Gary. Don't come out till I tell you. Maggie, it's nice to see you. You look like you're on a boat or something there. We got Ricardo. He's got we got Howard. We got Andre. I can't see him. And then I got a lot of people who are taking, there's Glenda hiding. Glenda O'Driscoll. I see you, Glenda, from Ireland. And a lot of other names. Julie, my writer. Chris Blake. Luis Ramos. Hey, by the way, we have that new shirt thing going on the website. It takes a while to get the shirts to you, and we're having a little problem with the shipping, but there's a huge amount of shirts there. Pretty cool. Izzy, nice to see you. Beautiful art. And let me thank Michael and David from England. Oh, Richard. I didn't see you, Richard. Jay, Bonet. Is that how to say it, your name, Bonet?
No, it's Bonnie.
Bonnie. Oh, Bonnie.
Just normal.
Nice to see you, Bonnie. I'm happy you got in. I hope that got solved. You're part of the framework of the whole talk, Bonnie, knowing it or not. Chris, we got, I just lost him. We got Caleb. Nice to see you, Caleb. Richard. Chris, we got Ben again. Donna up in Sacramento area. Yeah. And Sharon and everyone else. So Mike, Z, very nice to see you. Z, I'm not going to go in the water today, I don't think. Yeah. I'm going to stay on land. Sean, don't take yourself so seriously, Sean. Yariv, Pamela, yeah. Here's Natalie and David. Thank you so much. David does the Tuesdays and Thursday recovery meetings in England, and then we got the Wednesday, Saturday. It's all on the website, all Pacific time. Judith, you're looking like you're having a good time in Hawaii. Norman, yes, get some sun, Norman, every once in a while. Coming out of that bunker. Sylvester, nice to see you. You got the shades look like they go to eternity. They look huge. Nick and Mike, you got some incredible. What's that color there, man? Yes, jeez. All right, Nick, take it easy. Yeah, behave yourself. Yeah, with the butt and everything. Come on. There's certain decorum you need to exhibit as a Zen Bitch Slap member. Yeah. All right, James. See you guys. Thanks so much for having me. And we'll stay in touch. We'll be back Tuesday and Thursday and Wednesday and Saturday until whatever.
Thank you for keeping
Thanks,
the
Paul.
space open.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Mike, really. I just
No,
come.
I'm glad I got a seat assignment. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
See you later, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.